Hey there everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into the vault on a legendary piece of lost cinema. A superhero epic that came this close to existing, but vanished like a phantom.
Who is this guy?
We're talking, of course, about Justice League Mortal, the George Miller directed blockbuster that promised a radical, operatic vision of DC's finest. Years before the Snyder Cut, or the DCEU as we knew it, even began. But before we dive in, I just want to give a massive thank you to all of you.
Thank you.
We recently smashed through the 7,900 subscriber milestone.
Impressive.
And honestly, that's all down to your amazing support. Your likes, comments, and shares, it means the world. So if you haven't already, please hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives like this, and ring that little notification bell. I really appreciate it.
I'm going after the big one.
Alright, let's get into it. This is Easy Reviews What Almost Was. Justice League Mortal. Let's set the stage. It's 2007. The superhero genre is still in flux. Powerful, promising, but far from the juggernaut we know today. Christopher Nolan had just reignited Batman's cinematic relevance with Batman Begins in 2005. A gritty, grounded origin story that traded neon and camp for fear and pathos. And his follow-up, The Dark Knight, was in production, though no one yet knew it would redefine the genre. Superman Returns, released in 2006, was a reverent, nostalgia-heavy continuation of the Christopher Reeve legacy, but its muted reception left Warner Brothers hesitant. The film had done okay financially, but it wasn't the franchise relaunch that they'd hoped for. Meanwhile, Marvel was still licensing characters to other studios. Iron Man wouldn't debut until May of 2008, and Sony was leading the comic book charge with Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy, with Spider-Man 2 in 2004 considered one of the greatest superhero films of all time, and Spider-Man 3 looming with sky-high anticipation. Over at Fox, X-Men had established a strong foundation for ensemble comic book storytelling, and Blade had proven that darker, more mature superhero content could thrive. It was in this transitional moment that George Miller, yes, the Mad Max and Happy Feet guy, was handed the keys to the Justice League. Miller wasn't aiming to play catch-up. He wanted to lead the genre into its next era. His vision? Something mythic, biblical, operatic. A cinematic Iliad with capes. Forget the gritty realism Nolan was perfecting. This was about modern gods, burdened with power and alienation. His Justice League wasn't just about saving the world, it was about the emotional cost of doing so. The script, by Kieran and Michelle Mulroney, pulled heavily from iconic comic book arcs, primarily Mark Waid's Tower of Babel, where Batman's contingency plans to stop the League fall into the wrong hands, and Infinite Crisis, with Maxwell Lord and the OMAC project as core elements. The villain? Maxwell Lord, a charismatic businessman and telepath who takes control of Batman's Brother Eye satellite, weaponizing it against the League using Batman's own paranoid blueprints. That leads to scenes like a mind-controlled Superman brutally fighting Wonder Woman while the League collapses from within. Miller's vision was massive, but it was also personal. This wasn't just about explosions and spectacle, it was about consequences, flaws, and the loneliness of gods walking among mortals. And his vision was taking shape. One of the boldest moves was the casting. Instead of established stars, Miller opted for a younger, relatively unknown ensemble, aiming to define these characters for a new generation, and also lock them in for possible sequels and solo films, essentially building a cinematic universe from the ground up. The cast consisted of DJ Catrona, later known for roles in the From Dusk Till Dawn TV series, G.I. Joe Retaliation, and a brief appearance in Shazam! Fury of the Gods, was cast as Clark Kent. Miller's vision for Catrona's Superman was a more introspective and emotionally distant Kal-El, one who carried the weight of his alien heritage and immense power with a quiet sense of burden. Rather than the warm, all-American ideal often seen in previous portrayals, Catrona's Superman was intended to feel slightly more alien, a god among mortals, learning how to connect with humanity while leading the League. Years before his later controversies, but fresh off gaining attention for early roles like The Social Network, Armie Hammer was cast as a young Bruce Wayne. Miller envisioned a highly intelligent, obsessive, and globally operating Dark Knight, who monitored the world through the advanced surveillance system known as Brother Eye, a nod to comic book lore. This Batman was less lone vigilante and more calculated strategist, working on a near paranoid level. Hammer later described the Batsuit designed for him as incredibly functional and technologically intricate, far more advanced than anything audience had seen on screen at the time. Megan Gale, the Australian model and actress, was cast as Wonder Woman, marking what would have been her debut in a major Hollywood role. Photos from costume tests still circulate online, showing Gale fully suited up, in Amazonian battle armor. Exuding both regal strength and commanding presence, George Miller reportedly saw her as the perfect embodiment of Diana's duality, blending elegance, compassion, and fierce warrior spirit. Gale later spoke about the extensive physical training she underwent for the role and expressed how deeply honored she felt to have been chosen to portray such an iconic character. Adam Brody, best known at the time for his role on The OC, was cast as Wally West, the Flash. Brody's version of the Scarlet Speedster was written as both the heart of the team and as comic relief, bringing youthful energy and a sharp comedic timing to both balance the film's heavier themes and bring a little levity. But his Flash wasn't just there for levity. Wally West was also a powerhouse, with his incredible speed playing a crucial role in the final battle against the Omax, a threat lifted from the comics that posed global danger. Brody has since spoken fondly about the role, highlighting the character's reality-bending abilities and the sheer fun of playing a hero so fast that he could defy physics. Then there was Common. The Grammy-winning rapper and actor was cast as Jon Stewart, the Green Lantern, marking what would have been the character's first live-action appearance on the big screen. Common was reportedly ecstatic about the role, describing George Miller's vision for the film as like seeing heaven. His portrayal of Stewart would have leaned into the character's military background and unwavering discipline, portraying him as a calm, stoic presence. A tactical leader and architect of willpower made light, Stewart's Green Lantern constructs were expected to play a major role in the film's large-scale action sequences, offering both visual spectacle and strategic finesse. Santiago Cabrera, known for roles in Heroes and later Star Trek Picard, was cast as Arthur Curry, also known as Aquaman. Unlike the more rugged, rebellious interpretation later popularized by Jason Momoa, Cabrera's Aquaman was envisioned as a regal, dignified figure, a classic exiled king archetype caught between duty and isolation. Miller's take leaned into the mythological roots of the character, portraying him as a proud but conflicted ruler torn between the world above and the underwater kingdom he once called home. This version of Aquaman would have added emotional gravitas and political complexity to the team dynamic. Rounding out the heroes was Hugh Keys Byrne, best known for his iconic roles as Toe Cutter in Mad Max and Immortan Joe in Mad Max Fury Road, cast as John Johns, the Martian Manhunter. This casting reunited him with George Miller and was widely considered a stroke of genius. Known for bringing gravitas and intensity to even the most otherworldly roles, Keys Byrne was set to portray the League's most introspective and empathic member, an alien observer who, despite his powers, served as the team's moral anchor. His presence would have added a layer of philosophical depth to the story, grounding the film's cosmic elements with a quiet, haunting wisdom. And then there were the villains. Jay Baruchel, known for roles in How to Train Your Dragon and This Is the End, was cast as the film's central antagonist, Maxwell Lord. It was an unconventional but intriguing choice, with Baruchel bringing his trademark nervous energy and offbeat charm to a character traditionally portrayed as a cold, calculating manipulator. Miller's version of Lord was reportedly a tech-savvy mastermind, someone who uses charisma, intellect, and manipulation to pit the heroes against one another from within. The casting promised a chilling twist on the friendly face-turned-threat archetype, offering a modern villain whose psychological warfare posed just as much danger as any superpowered foe. Teresa Palmer, later known for Warm Bodies and A Discovery of Witches, was cast as Talia al Ghul, the daughter of Ra's al Ghul, and a complex figure in Batman's mythology. Though details about her exact role in Justice League Mortal remain limited, Talia's presence hinted at deeper layers of political intrigue and personal conflict within the story, particularly with Bruce Wayne. As a character often torn between loyalty to her father's legacy and her own sense of justice, Talia could have added a morally ambiguous edge to the film's villain roster, blending romance, betrayal, and ideology into the overarching narrative. This cast represented a huge gamble, betting on talent over star power, but it could have launched multiple careers into the stratosphere. But Justice League Mortal wasn't just a script and a cast list. By late 2007, it was deep in the pre-production and rapidly building momentum. And when George Miller commits to a vision, he doesn't hold back. To bring his cinematic Justice League to life, he enlisted Weta Workshop, the legendary New Zealand effects house behind the Lord of the Rings trilogy, to design the film's costumes, props, and practical effects. Over the years, leaked concept art has offered glimpses of Weta's bold and inventive designs: a tactical streamlined batsuit, a regal yet battle-hardened Wonder Woman, and distinct stylized looks for Aquaman and Martian Manhunter, each tailored to reflect the character's mythos and physicality. Storyboards revealed large-scale kinetic action sequences, including a brutal Superman vs. Wonder Woman showdown, Flash taking on waves of OMAC cyborgs, and a climactic finale rumored to involve multiple versions of the Flash, potentially a Speed Force echo, uniting to bring down Maxwell Lord. Production was slated to take place primarily in Australia, Miller's home base, where sets had already begun construction, practical effects rigs were being assembled, costume tests were underway, and the cast had started intensive physical training. Armie Hammer recalled days spent rehearsing elaborate fight choreography, while Megan Gale posed for photo shoots fully suited as Wonder Woman. Everything appeared locked in and ready for cameras to roll, but just as pieces were coming together, an avalanche of external forces would bring it all to a halt. So what went wrong? The downfall of Justice League Mortal wasn't caused by a single issue, but rather a devastating convergence of events. A perfect storm that derailed the project just weeks before filming was set to begin. First came the 2000 to 2008 Writers Guild of America strike, which brought Hollywood to a standstill. Although the initial script was complete, the strike made it impossible to perform last-minute rewrites or polish scenes during production, a critical step for large-scale blockbusters. The inability to adapt or tweak dialogue during filming introduced uncertainty and delays, stalling the project's momentum. Then came what many consider the fatal blow: the loss of Australian tax incentives. The production had been relying on substantial rebates from the Australian government, but changes to the qualification rules required a higher percentage of Australian talent in major roles. Despite George Miller himself being Australian, along with cast members like Megan Gale and Hugh Keys-Byrne, the predominantly American core cast meant that the film no longer qualified for those incentives. The resulting budget gap was massive. Warner Brothers explored relocating the shoot to Canada, but the logistical challenges and the cost of moving such an ambitious production made that option null. And finally, internal studio politics and unfortunate timing played a major role. Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight was poised for its 2008 release, and Warner Brothers executives grew increasingly concerned about the audience confusion over having two concurrent versions of Batman: Christian Bale in Nolan's ultra-grounded take, and Armie Hammer's younger, tech-driven Batman in Miller's version. After The Dark Knight became a cultural juggernaut, the studio doubled down on Nolan's universe and shifted its priorities towards grounded solo films instead of ensemble experiments. By mid-2008, Warner Brothers officially pulled the plug. The sets were dismantled, costumes packed away, and cast released from their contracts. Justice League Mortal, once on the brink of becoming a bold new chapter in superhero cinema, faded into the dark halls of Hollywood history as one of its most infamous what-could-have-been stories. The legacy of Justice League Mortal is one of enduring fascination, a cinematic phantom that continues to haunt the what-if corners of Hollywood. Like Jodorowsky's Dune or Tim Burton's aborted Superman Lives, It exists as a tantalizing glimpse into the alternate timeline of blockbuster filmmaking, where bold creative visions collided with real-world obstacles. Unlike Zack Snyder's Justice League, which eventually saw its original version restored after a passionate fan campaign, Miller's Justice League Mortal never got that chance. Not a single frame of principal photography was shot. What remains are fragments, scripts, concept art, storyboards, and the vivid memories of those who were there, each piece hinting at the scope and the ambition of what might have been. Did Miller's operatic, mythic approach, grounded in character but unafraid of scale, plant seeds for the heightened style seen in later comic book adaptations? We can only speculate. George Miller, of course, would go on to reaffirm his visionary status with Mad Max Fury Road in 2015, a film that redefined modern action cinema, and again with 2024's Furiosa, a prequel expanding the mythology of his post-apocalyptic world. These films served as reminders of the kind of auteur-driven spectacle that Miller could have brought to Justice League Mortal. Just imagine that raw, kinetic energy channeled into DC's greatest heroes. For fans, Justice League Mortal remains a ghost, a potentially brilliant, radically different take on the DC universe, one that was undone by a collision of fate, finances, and studio politics. It stands as a symbol of lost potential, a creative road not taken, and a parallel cinematic universe we never got to explore. So there you have it, the epic and untimely story of George Miller's Justice League Mortal, a film overflowing with bold ideas and a daring cast, and the support of visionary artists, all stopped cold by a perfect storm of bad timing, politics, and lost opportunities. But what do you think? After hearing all the details, do you believe Justice League Mortal could have been a masterpiece? Would you have preferred Miller's mythic vision back then over what eventually came to pass? Drop your thoughts, theories, and alternate timelines down in the comments. I genuinely want to hear you and what you think about this one. And hey, while you're down there, don't forget to check out EZ Shop. We got some original movie-inspired designs made just for film fans like you. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you next time.